I go live in a few seconds here. So, all right. Hey everybody, welcome on into the channel. I hope you're having a good night so far. Welcome to Wagworks GA. I am Jeff. With a G, this time I actually definitely have to make the distinction because I have a guest tonight, a fellow Jeff, Jeff Larkin. Say hello.
Hey, how's it going, Jeff?
It's going good, Jeff. I feel like this is gonna be fun and kind of chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jeff is a fellow creator with Kids Comics Unite. He is a big force behind getting our first ever anthology project, Let's Go, a kids comic anthology, out the door. And yeah, I think we've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. So without too much further ado, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to jump over and take a look at that Kickstarter page. Just a moment, my OBS did not have the right source for that page. This is what live TV is like. It's good times. And I say TV meaning not TV, but rather
What's
Twitch.
TV? I've never heard of it.
Who knows? Who knows? Okay. All right, there we go. Well, now I've got it. There we are. Yeah, so we're
Yay.
doing pretty well. We're sitting at a nice, nice, what, 200% of our goal at $7,677. We've met most of our stretch goals, and now the campaign closes at 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, and we're just kind of really zooming in on that last stretch goal that we have, which I will bring that one down for you. This one is really cool. It's right here, actually. It's if we hit $9,000 on the campaign, we are looking to do a panel at a Comic-Con. We have a few that we have one specific one we're hopeful for, but nothing's locked in yet. But we're looking to present a panel, and I think it's going to be pretty incredible because we've spent a year as a collective group working on this book. And I think it's a really good book, and I'm really excited to get it in our hands. And I think the stories of how we did it as a group and the structure we kind of made are going to be very cool to share. So if you haven't supported the project yet, if you are on the fence and you want to do it, you have until Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock Eastern time. And if you could help us meet this last stretch goal, it would just be amazing. And thank you to everyone who has already contributed.
Yeah, totally. It's so exciting that we've done well, but hitting that next mark would be even more awesome. And we have the weekend to do it. So, yay, team, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I didn't know what to expect in terms. I had a good hope that with like 30ish of us working together, we could hit the goal somewhere in the campaign to get the books out there. And then when we funded in like 15 hours, I wasn't sure where to set the expectation.
I don't know if you remember that website that Patrick shared with us that projects what your possible end will be based
Oh
on how
yeah.
you get out of the gate. And it was crazy. It was like, and of course, they don't account for the middle kind of fallow period. But if we had kept up that pace that we were in that first 15 hours, we would be driving Lamborghinis now.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah. So Sarah Giles is here in the chat, and yeah, we it was like 90K, I think is what it projected. It's Kick Tracker, I think was the name of it. Um, but yeah, that first pace that pace from the first day was just like breakneck. Would have been pretty incredible. But we're just happy to be where we are, honestly. Um,
Having a book, it's going to be
yeah.
awesome.
I mean, so Jeff, like, I think it's a good point to jump in. Like, you were with us on the publishing committee, like in the trenches there, as we like had those first meetings and tried to figure out what this thing that we're making was. Like, what was your experience with that, especially in the early days?
Um, it was cool. I mean, first of all, we had to figure out how we were going to work together. It's like, okay, we have all these people, and like, how are we going to break up the work so that we can get it done? And then, breaking up into the different teams was really good and really cool. I ended up, since I had been interested in the editorial side of things originally, sort of heading off to that department and sort of becoming the leader of the editorial department. But like one of the first things that we had to figure out at the very beginning was to decide who was going to be in the book. I think at the beginning we had like 35, almost 40 people signed up.
It might have been more, actually. Yeah.
Do you think it was more than that? I can't exactly remember, but
I think like 44 or 47. Those numbers stick
really,
in my head from like the very first survey that was sent out.
Yeah. So, and we're Kids Comics Unite, which is an awesome community, which is educational and supportive in terms of helping each other make our comics. So one of the big first questions was like, who's going to be in this book? Can we fit everybody in the book? And that was sort of one of editorial's first jobs, was to kind of make a recommendation based on that. And we really did decide that we should get as many people into the book. So we're not going to have like 10 people with 20-page comics in the book. We're going to say, everybody can be in the book if they submit a short comic. And then we also said that you could do a longer comic, but the space in the book for those longer comics would be competitive. But it all worked out. Everybody who wanted to be in the book got into the book. And so that was great that we could support a community that way.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, like the number of contributors that we got. By the way, Sarah said, how many Jeffs does it take to remember how many people there were initially in the project?
Well, I think we're the only Jeffs in the project.
I think to really remember it would take at least one more, probably, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah. And I also, I've never really considered what the gender breakdown was either, too. But it's a pretty diverse group of people, not only in Jeffs and in genders, but also geographically as well.
Yeah, we had so we've got Australia all the way through to France, I think, pretty much everywhere in between.
We got France, we have Costa Rica, we have Canada, we have the US. Where else do we have? We have Australia. So that was always really interesting when we were having our meetings. For instance, in the editorial committee, one of our members is in Australia, and she was awesome, Claire Murray. I just want to call her out because she would join our meetings at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Whoa.
So she would go to bed and then set her alarm to wake up for the meetings, do the meetings, and then go back to bed. And then she would go to school the next day because she works out of school. So.
Oh my gosh, that is dedication. Holy cow.
Absolutely. Yeah. She was amazing.
Yeah. So you mentioned your work on editorial, and there were some pretty hefty decisions that you guys had to make, not just in terms of like the choice of who to feature in the book, but also kind of directing the theme, like centering around where all the comics were going to be kind of themed. How hard was that?
It was interesting. We talked about it. The editorial committee, we had about 7 people in it, and so we would meet regularly once a week to chat things through. But the first thing we sort of figured out was that we really needed to go to everybody in the project and say, what kind of stories do you like to write? And actually, at the beginning of the project, there was this idea that we might actually ask our audience what stories they wanted us to write for them. Marketing had suggested that we put out a survey, but we kind of really felt like that we might get, the best stories by actually asking each of the creators. What are you good at writing? What do you like writing? And then trust that the audience, like if we were invested in the stories, that they would be too. Um, so what we did was editorial was tasked with coming up with the theme, and we could have gone off and said, okay, this is what you're going to write about. But instead we had a poll and we asked everybody, what would you like to write about? And then we sort of collated all their answers and found the commonalities of those. And we came up with sort of a hybrid of a couple of things. The big thing was the journeys were really popular. And it's been done before in Kids Lit as well, but it's kind of time tested. So we knew that we wanted to have a kid going somewhere. And then the other thing is that there was a lot of mention about animals and creatures and cryptids and aliens and all kinds of things. So we added the element on this journey. A kid meets and has some experience with a creature of some type.
Yeah, I mean,
And I
say what you will.
originally, I was,
Go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say what you will about us kidlit creators, but we definitely love our critters. Absolutely.
Yeah, we do. I do have to admit, I was a little at the beginning. I wasn't entirely sure whether or not we were getting a little too specific. Like we wanted to give everybody a broad sort of reach in terms of what they could do, and it's like, would adding the creatures make things too narrow for people? And so we talked about that, and I was the one that really needed to be convinced at first, and I'm so happy that I was convinced. Um, I mean, that's the great thing about the teams that we had. People really did try and find a common sort of consensus to the decisions we made. But yeah, so that's how we did it. And then we just sort of released it, and everybody was excited about it. And I think it's been a great theme. I ended up writing 3 different comics just in
Oh,
case.
whoa.
Yeah, and so it was easy to riff off of the theme.
Hmm. So I know we all each got like one comic in the book as contributors. Do you have plans for the other 2 comics that you ended up not submitting?
Yeah, well, one thing is another sort of result of the anthology is that I started a Substack newsletter. So I'm putting it out into the Substack. I did one post where I had a little bit of a competition. Um, and I said, okay, if you contribute to this, I'll send you all the comics in a little sort of zine. So
Oh,
that's
that's
fun.
nice.
And who knows, maybe I'll make an anthology of a very short anthology of just all Jeff Larkin creatures on a journey story. I don't know. We'll see.
That could be kind of
But
fun.
yeah, it could be. Um, I think one other thing that I did notice, one person, like for instance, Bob Thibault, he's really excited now about, he did a fractured fairy tale
Hmm.
around our theme. And I know that he was excited to have a short project to work on. Like I think a lot of people in the anthology were, they really
Hmm.
discovered, hey, it's kind of cool working on something that you can actually finish within a year.
Yeah, it's. It turns out that's really satisfying to be able to see the final product and be done and not like get burnt out. Uh,
Yeah,
Not drawing thousands of images probably
yeah,
helps.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the short comics because I know KCU also has a zine club now that's been kind of growing and thriving as of late. So I think
Um,
perhaps we started something.
yeah, it's been really fun. This week, Roger McMullen is running that, and he showed us actually how to make these tiny little business cards that are little zines. So I'm looking forward to trying that. And people just did it on the spot. So yeah, lots of
Oh, that's so
potential.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's always interesting to see kind of or to imagine like we just kind of built our own publishing house structure and have made this book, which, it's funded, it's happening. Like the last step now is going to be actually just getting it out to the printer and getting it in people's hands. But like we all as a group did this in the last year and 3 months maybe. I'm very curious as to what could be next with KCU and what we could do together, because this was pretty empowering, I would say.
Yeah. Um, and Jana's mentioned the fact that KCU is made up of professionals who've been published and new people who are totally new to it, and having the experience of, like, one of the things, for instance, I had not gone to print before, and this whole, like, we have to have our specs right, we need to have our DPIs right, we need to figure out CMYK. If you'd been just putting stuff up on the web, that's stuff that you never dealt with before, and having to figure that stuff out was kind of an awesome experience.
Yeah, same. It was really interesting trying to get the template for the comics and get that, like, take the printer template that we had gotten and adapting it into Clip. Um, I don't know why I decided to try to do this on stream, but I actually did this on stream like back in August, September of last year, and it was probably not
Yeah,
the most exciting thing that anyone has ever seen, but it was an interesting learning experience. And I
yeah,
still didn't quite get it right. I actually had to go back and make adjustments, but it was a good chance to learn.
yeah. I mean, I didn't get it right at the beginning either. There are a couple settings in Clip that you don't realize when you're exporting. Oh, I need to turn that setting off when I
Hmm.
export. So, but now we know.
Now we know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said the magic words Clip, Clip Studio Paint. And so your name has been mentioned on this stream before, for
Huh.
your in positive ways, for for your sage wisdom, for the Clip Studio Cafe that you've hosted in the past, for Kids Comics Unite. Um, how did you get the idea to start doing that?
Um, I sort of took over. The cafe was sort of there in a forum. So there was the chat. And then the fellow who was running it got busy with work and whatnot, and he needed somebody to take over. So originally, I just was going to be the moderator for the chat board, which is part of KCU's website. Um, but then we were having these really fun Friday meetings. Gibson Twist used to do these social things on Friday, and it was just people getting together, chewing the fat about comics. But he had to end up stopping that, and I really missed our Friday get-togethers. And I thought, well, why don't we try and do some Zoom meetings around Clip? And Clip would be the reason we get together. Although we ended up, chatting and being social, but it was really fun to do that on Fridays and just share tips about the techniques and the tools of Clip Studio. I ended up making a bunch of tutorial videos, which I hope was helpful for people too. Um, but yeah, and then people would come in and, like, Sarah Bear, who is on the call right now, professed to know not a lot about Clip, but then would teach us stuff in the sessions. And I was like, where'd you pick that up from? I thought you didn't know anything. So we learned from each other. It was kind of cool.
That's right. You hear that, Sarah? We are on to you. You know what you're doing, and you can't convince us otherwise.
Totally.
Yeah, those video tutorials were incredible, and I had been using Clip for at least a couple of years, if not like three-ish, by the time that I came in to the first ones, and I was
Yeah.
learning things, and it was so helpful, kind of, because you worked through the process of like how you set up a comic, and we did it week by week for quite a while, and like it really helped, and there were a lot of, like, because anyone who's used Clip knows that like it's very tunable, very customizable, in terms of what you can do. And just there were knobs in there to turn that I didn't realize were there. And it ended up being really helpful just to see what I could adjust. And it caused me to re examine a lot of my process.
Yeah. Sort of on that, along that line too. I'm going to have to go back and make some of those tutorial videos because my process has changed. The more you learn about the program, but also the anthology forced me to change because of the fact that we were going to 300 DPI. I usually work in 600 DPI. I won't get too technically boring here unless you want me to, but I just discovered that my process of inking and coloring was not going to work for the new specs for the anthology. So I discovered a different way to fill that I was doing before. It involved alias versus anti-alias brushes and fill tools. But now, since I've changed the way I do things now, I have access to a lot more brushes that I wouldn't use before in my other process. So,
Oh, nice.
um, yeah, it was a cool side effect.
So I am curious because I definitely have talked about aliasing and anti-aliasing when I'm drawing here on stream. Um, so what about that was kind of stopping you from using your normal process for the anthology?
Um, Essentially, it was, and I guess I sort of switched it up halfway through doing things. Perhaps I didn't need to switch. Perhaps if I'd stayed at 600 DPI and then just exported everything after the fact, it wouldn't have. But I didn't. Halfway through the process, when I was a few pages in, I decided I did need to go down to 300 DPI. And the lines that I was using a real G pen with some texture on it with anti-aliasing turned off. So it would be crisp.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have crisp fills right to the edge. Um, but I found that when I was creating a scene with very thin lines in the distance, um, those were coming out not as smooth as I wanted to. There was a bit of texture, there was a bit of pixelation on it,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it didn't look great. So I tried the other method, and it worked much better um, when I was starting in 300 DPI. It wasn't an issue when I was at 600 DPI, but when I was at 300 DPI, I was noticing it, and I did some print tests just to make sure what I was seeing was indeed a problem, and so I switched. But again, you buy like all these commercial brushes, like you buy Friendin or you buy Daub brushes or any of the, and a lot of their brushes have anti-aliasing turned on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you turn them off, because you're doing this process then you don't get the advantage of what they designed.
That's true. Yeah, I know. I've been mostly an anti-aliasing off evangelist because of the filling issue, and if you're
Yeah.
not doing anything too complicated. But yeah, I do. You do see it with like the especially texture brushes. You kind of miss out on a lot.
Yeah. I mean, clip is, the vector function of clip is awesome because when you use
Mm-hmm.
vector lines, um, you can actually fill into right where the line is and include the line. Um, so you can have anti-aliasing on, and you will get those solid fills um, without any white spaces. So um,
I'm I may have to re-examine that choice again for myself.
yeah,
um, but so you've yeah, you mentioned brushes, and this is I think for any digital artist, how big is your unused brush pile of shame? Because mine is ridiculous, even just with the free ones that you can get from Clip.
yeah. Well, I bought the Friendin brushes early, and I bought the Daub brushes, and there's fantastic value, and they keep adding to them without having to pay for them.
Oh wow.
Um, and I got to tell you, that's one thing about brushes. I probably tested 40 brushes that were all sort of in the realm of I want sort of like a textured inking kind of pen like feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I would spend hours going through all of these brushes only to conclude that they all look very similar. Um, and then I just headed back to Clip Studio's Real G Pen, um, which is kind of what I use now. It's And but then again, that's kind of it's my style too. Like a lot of people use very textured brushes, and they use textured brushes when they're doing color. I do cell shaded, pretty flat colors with pretty hard edges on the shadows.
Mhm.
So I don't need anything really fancy in terms of textured brushes. So,
Yeah, I think I'm of a similar school to you on that one as well. But yeah, like the G, there's a variation. Like I found one on the Clip Assets store that it's like a variation on the G Pen that I really like. That's
yeah,
kind of my go-to.
yeah.
So I've realized that we jumped right in talking about the anthology, but I kind of neglected one of
No,
the most basic things, which is like for anybody who's watching this stream who might not know you, although if it's anyone from the KCU community, they'll definitely know you. Um, could introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about kind of where you came from and what you're working on.
okay. Um, should I share a screen? I can show a little bit about my website.
Yes, I can make that happen. Just
You
one
can make
second.
that
So when you
happen.
share, it may get a little wonky on this screen here, but I will adjust
Okay,
as
or
quickly as I can.
I can just, yeah.
Oh no, go for it. Go for it. I will adjust.
Okay. Alrighty. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Okay. This is my website, jefflarkinart.com. These images that I'm sort of scrolling through here were meant for picture books. So I kind of started in the illustration realm with picture book ideas. I came through theater. I went to school, I went to grad school to write musical theater, particularly. After that, I started writing plays, kids' plays, and screenplays. But at one point, I was kind of like, the problem with those productions is when they're over, they're over. And I wanted like a physical book that
Mm.
could be on the shelf and stay on the shelf, and you could pull down and put back up and pull down. Um, so I discovered sort of picture books. There's a guy named Sean Tan who just did this beautiful artwork, and that sort of got me inspired. So I started in that, and I didn't illustrate before that. I don't know what I was thinking that I could pick this up quickly and easily. You know, have I done 10,000 hours since then? Maybe, I don't know. But then I made the silly thing like, oh, I want to write longer stories now. I'll do a graphic novel. That can't be that hard. And then it's like, I remember Gibson Twist saying, you should do short comics first. And I'm like, no, I'm working on a 200-page graphic novel. It's like, and I'm not even really an illustrator yet. And it's like, how many pages of illustrations is that? Um, so I started working on this, which is still in progress. It's a memoir. When I was 9, I was bitten by a muskrat, and I thought I was going to die. So it's actually a funny take on thinking you're going to die. Um, yeah, I started in on that. I continue working on that. It's a long process, but I'm enjoying it. The other thing I did was before getting into all this, I was a photographer. I shot theater. Um, so I would go to shows and shoot the production photos, and I also shoot images for posters and promo. Um, and so I'll just show you this. One other thing is it's sort of a series this is something I did during the pandemic for fun. Um, I was going crazy in the house, so I would just go out on photo walks, and I ended up compositing 3D models that I'd posed into backgrounds that I shot around my town, and just sort of made it this little story about these two robots. I would be out and about, and I would just invariably bump into them. Um, so photo illustration, I didn't really pursue this much, but I did do a recent walk recently for my wife's birthday. We walked the length of Manhattan from the top to the bottom, and I took a lot of shots. And I want to do some compositing again into that.
Oh, that's
Anyways,
very cool.
yeah, it was kind of a fun process. Um, and recently, I just started this Substack, which I mentioned previously. So I'm going to put up some of the shorter comics Here are like some of the shorter comics that didn't go into the anthology. A one pager, which I'm kind of enjoying doing short comics.
Mm.
This one is a two pager. Yeah. So, anyways, I'll stop sharing for now and we can chat because I can't think while I'm looking at stuff.
Well, it's really cool. Thank you for sharing.
You bet.
I've got to ask, like, so the photo collages, those are very cool. Have you thought about using that as a medium for a comic?
I, ha- I I haven't. I had that question a lot when I first got into picture books. They're like, "You're a photographer. Why don't you just shoot stuff?" And until I found the digital compositing aspect of it, I just kind of
Mm-hmm.
thought, I don't really want to. I had seen picture books that had done it that I just didn't like at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and also I kind of felt like I would be limited by what I could. The beauty of illustration is that you can, if you can think it, you can draw it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you can go anywhere in illustration, and you can sort of do that with photo compositing, but not quite as much. Um, but I did enjoy doing that robot project, so that's a little bit different because again, you're creating something on top of the photo, which wasn't there. Um, yeah. So, and to do it for a whole graphic novel, I don't know. It's a lot of work in itself doing that, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
know whether it'd be worth it.
Yeah, I guess not suggesting it so much as like an easier way to do it, but as something that plays to this other interest that you're also have a lot of experience with. But I would never have realized that you were a latecomer to illustration. Honestly, I kind of just assumed that you were much like me, someone who maybe had a job that was elsewhere, but had been kind of just drawing their whole life and doodling just because they enjoyed doing it.
I tell you, the only things I grew up in Canada, so as a kid, the only thing I drew were hockey goaltenders, and that lasted maybe 2 years, and then I didn't draw. I didn't draw until I got this crazy idea that picture books are cool.
Wow, I
Um,
had no idea. It's also
yeah,
interesting with the picture books. That's how Ashley and I got started as well. We wanted to start doing picture books, and then we just hit a story that wouldn't fit in a picture book, and didn't know what the format was. We're like, well, let's try a chapter book, and they're like, no, that's not it. And finally, we hit graphic novels. We discovered KCU, and the rest is kind of history because we just kind of this is the medium. Yeah.
yep, yeah. The other thing about picture books is I think I kind of grew away from it too because I wanted to do something a little bit older, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like with the push to get kids reading, picture books have become younger than they used to be. There is some still sophisticated picture books, some funny stuff, but there are times when I kind of feel like it's gotten a bit younger. So I am enjoying the sort of middle grade age, which is I kind of feel more suited for graphic novels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think when I like, cause we haven't really attended a lot of the SCBWI stuff for picture books in quite a while, but I think the guidance used to be like 500 words or less for a picture book, and it was starting to come down where they're like, yeah, actually, if you can get it under 350 or under 300, like that's the sweet spot. It's like, wow, it's
Yeah, but now I'm going in and I'm doing these like 4 panel comics. So that's kind of fun because they're even shorter than picture books. So
they are, but it's yeah. Uh, so I when I was in school, I would always do these short comics of me and my friends, and they almost always devolved into just like panels full of inside jokes. Um, but it was funny because I was so used to working in short stuff that when we started thinking about doing a graphic novel, I was like, oh, so I have to do something longer now and be consistent across all these pages. It was interesting, kind of looking up from the shorter.
yeah, so I don't know how much your audience knows about you or when the last time you spoke about it, but I don't know much about your background. So
Oh,
tell me, how did you get into this?
um, yeah, I have been drawing since I could hold a pencil. That's kind of my thing. And it's ever since a young age, I was inspired by Calvin and Hobbes, The Far Side, all of those. Sarah, Jeff Twist. Yeah. We're just switching Jeff hats now is what's happening at this moment in time. Um, so I was always inspired by comics. Went through my Marvel phase for sure. And I started getting high school, college age manga was starting to become more prevalent here in the U.S. So I definitely went through a manga phase. So I always loved comics, reading them, was inspired by them, would try to draw my own stuff. I loved like web comics as well. The big one that I have been reading for probably 2 decades now on and off is Penny Arcade, which is not a kidlit comic. There's some language and mature topics in there, but it's humor, and it was a big inspiration to me. Yeah, and so I was always so from being inspired, even as early as third, fourth grade, making these little comics of me and my friends and my classmates, and I just kept doing it, and I somehow still was convinced that despite this being just what I was doing all the time and seemed to want to do, I wanted to be instead a meteorologist. So I went.
As one does.
Yeah, my last art class was in seventh grade, eighth grade. But I still kept, every notebook that I had in the margins were all these drawings and comics and stuff like that. And I just, I only, I kept drawing and people were like, oh, you should do something with that. You should, do a picture book. And then, Ashley suggested, I'm like, well, I don't know what to write. So write a story for me and I'll do the drawings. And then that's how kind of our partnership was born, in the kidlit stuff. And, yeah, I'm very thankful to have a writer for me as well. We work together well. It's been nice.
Did you guys know this about each other before you got together? Like, did you discover this? Like,
the drawing and the art side, Ashley knew about me because that was just kind of, again, it was we were in meteorology, the meteorology program together at Florida State University. I don't know if she was aware, but when we were in school, she would always put her hair up and like had these like really intricate like pinnings of it up in her hair. And I remember one time in one of our like grad school classes, I was behind her and I was trying to draw like all these like ways that she had her hair pinned up. And it was fascinating. But yeah, it's funny because art was in my mom's side of the family. Like I had an uncle who was a professor of art at Valparaiso University. It did like sculpture was his main medium, but like all of my mom's family painted and did all this stuff, and it was just very natural.
cool.
Thanks,
we had one famous painter, sort of an uncle, my dad's uncle, I guess not through blood, but through marriage, was a very famous Canadian painter. He used to paint these beautiful mountain scenes, but, that was not blood relative, so it's not really in our genes. Although my mom was a photographer, so I guess that kind of came through the genes a little bit. But that's cool. So you were obsessed with Ashley's hair and you tried to draw it. That's really cool.
That's how it all started.
It's a little creepy, but
it's it's interesting. I think Ashley hair origin story. Oh, this is not where I thought this stream was gonna go, guys. Oh my goodness.
But no, I had this image of her. The way you described her hair pinned up, I thought it was like, did it look like a cloud? Was it like a tornado on her head? Like, was it weather? Was it this weather image that you just really wanted to draw?
No, it was a very close to the head type of style. It was just like the way she did the bobby pins and everything to hold it up was very. It had some spikes and some dynamics to it. It was. I'll have to see if I have the sketch anywhere. I think I destroyed my notes after grad school, especially for that class, because it was my least favorite class ever. In terms of the content.
Yeah.
Sorry to that professor. Hopefully they don't know who they are. Yeah, it was. What you're saying though about art having a famous artist in the family, even not by blood though, I think the exposure to the arts and the kind of like opening that door of creative expression. I think that's really important.
Yeah. I think I have my mom to thank for that. My dad was a businessman, and his mind didn't really get around the idea of creating something that didn't have a lot of profit potential, um, which is totally cool. Eventually, I just kept rebelling and doing it, and he got it. And the fact that my mom had done it, you know, but having the support of your family is great. Yeah, I think the first time I really knew that I'd kind of got them was when they came to see a show that I was in. And at university, I was in a troupe, and we did shows, and they were really silly and body. And I was doing some body dance maneuvers, and they were sitting right at the front of the stage, and they were just. I saw tears coming out of my dad's face, and I was just like, "Oh my God, the power of theater!" Yeah,
Absolutely.
uh,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, theater and the arts, and I think I always knew that I didn't. I do remember we had we had people come in at the end of high school and talk about their careers, and and I think my what was I told? I took one of those career tests. Like, okay, what are you going to be? What do you want to be? And the test said that I should either be a cop or I should be in the business side of the arts, um, which is weird. But I guess I do kind of like order, as you've probably seen. Um, but one of the speakers was this guy who was an actor. And he said, it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you go for it. And, hopefully it makes you a little bit happy. And he said, if you want to be an accountant, go be an accountant. Just dig it. But I sort of knew that I dug music and I liked theater. And so that's kind of why I went down that path.
That's such good advice. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and also, to be dreadfully honest, I was not very I was not very good with the opposite sex when I was in high school. So when I got to university and there was the opportunity to be in a theater troupe with the opposite sex, it was awesome.
At that
Too
age,
much,
that is a real encouragement, honestly.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. And then I told my nephew. I don't know why I'm getting into these stupid stories, but I told my nephew. Um, I told my nephew, if you want to pick up girls, do not do what I do and what I did and play the trombone, because you cannot take the trombone to the campfire. You can take a guitar, so pick up the guitar. And what did he do? He took up the trombone.
Well, now I want to see someone play the trombone by the campfire. Like, I think that would be.
Trombone is like the whole ska thing. I didn't know how cool trombone was, and I wish I kept it up. But,
So, what do you play? Do you play anything now?
um, I've got keyboards that I just kind of play by ear, um, and I don't have a trombone, so I actually picked up a bass ukulele. So I'm
Oh,
trying to learn
cool.
that, which is kind of fun. Um, but I'm really a hacker. I really sit at the piano and I just kind of hear things and try and play it. When I did go to musical theater school, I was writing lyrics and script. I was not writing music. Although I did write a musical once where I just sang everything into a tape recorder and then had somebody else arrange everything. Um, but that wasn't going to cut it at New York Theater School. So, do you play?
Not really. I did like a year of saxophone in elementary school. I did chorus for probably 4 years. So my voice is the main thing I guess you could say I play, but I haven't really kept up with that. I can't. I've lost my music reading ability, but I can sing along okay. I guess that's it. I have little guitar here and there. I kind of pluck out tunes on a piano whenever I'm near one, but we don't really have one. So yeah, I enjoy
Yeah.
music. I listen to music throughout the day.
Um, Bringing this back to sort of illustration and I don't know if you've seen any of the books that will put a QR code in the front of a graphic novel. There's a book called Sophie's Ballad, I think it was called, where you could actually, it was about a composer, um, and the person who made the book also composed all this music. So you could
Oh,
scan the QR code at the front of the book and listen to it, which is
that's
kind of
very
cool.
cool. So that
Yeah.
reminds me. So we're in a critique group with a picture book writer, Stina Hernandez, who did her book Lupita's Brown Ballet Slippers just came out. So she also has like a theater background that she came in, and she had shared a story with us where actually there's a song with it, and I think she actually had like I think she'd actually written out the melody to the song to it as well. I don't know, it's really interesting. I think that's very cool when you can kind of build out the world of the books with the music. It's a interesting hybrid medium that I don't think is used enough.
Yeah. Um, I went and saw a theater show. There's a play on Broadway called Maybe Happy Ending. And it just made me want to try and figure out how I could put that show into a two-dimensional form. Because it was had this modular set design where like it was sort of a love story, and her apartment was here and his was there, and they would slide together and slide apart, and all this really cool modular stuff. And I thought, like, is there a way that we can make that sort of modularity in a book? Um, I mean, maybe Chris Ware has done it in his books. I've got this giant coffee table book which folds out, and but I mean, I think that's one thing too. Just like being inspired by other arts and having it inform what you do in your art is kind of cool too.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned some other books, and I'm curious because you always seem like you have a really kind of broad awareness in terms of what's out there for the kidlit market and all of that. Like what are you reading right now? Are there any titles that you just come back to time and time again?
Yeah, what am I reading right now? What did I read recently? Well, I've been reading Romana Yee's stuff recently because I took a class with her through the SAW Network. Um, there are some things. We just had the uh, Bring Your Own Book Club at KCU recently. I'm reading some shorter form comics too. There's a guy named Tom Gauld who's kind of awesome, and he is a cartoonist, so he does short forms, but he's got a ton of books as well. And I just read a book about librarians, essentially, and which is just a whole series of cartoons. Um, what books do I love? There's a guy named Jason Pamont who I don't feel like he really has hit the big time like he should. He's got these really great fun adventure stories with a little bit of fantasy. I'm not totally into full on fantasy, but I like elements of fantasy within a more realistic
Mm-hmm.
world. Yeah. What are you reading?
What am I reading? Well, what have I last read? Oh my gosh, this is a little bit embarrassing because we always have a basket full of library books, and like 90% of them are graphic novels. And my daughter will just chew through them. Like we'll get like a dozen new books, and like 3 days later, she's like, "Oh, I read them all." Um, but I haven't had a lot. I'm trying to remember what the last one I actually sat down and actively read was. I know I finally caught up and read, and this was Our Pact. Like that one is incredible. Um, that wasn't the last one that I sat down and read, was it? Um,
I'd have
yeah,
to
we
turn
just
around.
I read what I can, but some seasons of life allow me to do that, and some don't. We've got two kids. I do the meteorology job during the day, so I try to read, but sometimes there'll be the ones that have like been in the library basket for a month and they have to go back. I'm like, but I was going to, but no, it has to go back. Let someone else read it.
Okay, here's what I've got in my Libby right now. I've got Band Nerd, so there's some music and a graphic novel for you. I've got The Last Kids on Earth. I've got a book called Hunger's Bite, which is kind of cool, and something called Ghost Town. And on hold, I have a book called Speak Up Santiago.
Okay.
I love Libby because you can just try stuff and jump in, but
Nice. Yeah. Oh, Sarah, I like your recommendation. Recommended for 6 to 8 years. You can knock them out on one lunch break. That's a good strategy. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I try to keep up and try to at least stay in touch. And I find that I go through pockets of time where I'm like, okay, I'm making an effort now to read more, like to set aside time in like my evening hours to read. But there's other seasons of life where it's just not really possible. Um, but
Well, bringing it back to the anthology, what have I been reading this year is like comics, all the comics from the anthology. And that's been fun. I've been asked like what was one of the best things about the anthology for you, and it really was seeing people's submissions go from the bare bones thumbnail sketches at the beginning to more refined inks to the final colors, and also working in the editorial committee to see people level up the stories was really exciting. So that's mostly what I've been reading this year.
that's true. That is no light amount of work. How many comics was it total again?
There are 28 comics by 31 creators. I think we started with 30 and two had to unfortunately drop out due to life things. So it was not, given that we had 7 editors, it turned out that we didn't have too many to individually handle. What we did was we broke up those comics between the 7 of us. So, that roughed out to like only 4 per person. But that was quite a process going through those comics. And we originally had the submissions come in September. And then we had January was the next time to get the next set of sort of revisions done. And then we did a final revision, one more in February, then a final revision by March. So seeing the comics level up, there were a couple of people that I worked with that felt frustrated with their work. And I was just so inspired by the fact that they kept at it, even though they were a little frustrated. And the standards they had for themselves as well. I was like, oh, dude, you are so good and you work so fast. I would love to be frustrated like you are. It was really exciting to see, really inspiring.
Yeah, I'm a little bit envious. I will not actually see all the comics until I have the book in my hands. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm excited. It's
yeah, and some of the stuff at the beginning, as most comic artists knows, is like chicken scratch. So I'm like, okay, what the hell is going on in this page? But yeah, it all, and I'm the same way too. But people knew what they were doing in their heads, so we had to. There was a little bit of trust in terms of like, I'm just going to let you do what you do, and it's going to come together, and the picture will reveal itself. The fog will lift, and beauty will be in front of us.
yeah, it's always interesting to see process, and it's always interesting even just reading someone else's like some of the comics of people that like it's a different window into them, into how they think. Um, yeah, and then getting
Yeah,
to see the extra like evolution of it, like as they work through and how they work. It's very cool.
I mean, that's another thing about this project was not only did you see people's creative work, but you got to know them as people. Um, I knew a bunch of people in KCU, but now I know a lot of people in KCU, and I've made friendships as a result of this. And that's one of the. I don't. I don't want to get sad about it, but I am a little sad that it's sort of ending. It's kind of like when you do a theater show, and then you do the show, and then you don't have any more rehearsal. You don't have any shows, and you're kind of like something that I call post-show malaise. So I'm feeling a bit of post-show malaise right now, but it will pass, and a new project will come.
That is such a good word for it. And actually, in our household, we are just maybe exiting out of a post-show malaise. My daughter is in musical theater, and they just did
Yeah,
they had a show weekend a couple weekends back. That's part of what this busy season of life has been for us, and so she very much felt that post-show malaise. That like all the excitement, like she just lights up going, right? So, and then they had, 5 shows over the course of like 4 days, and it was just really hard to come down from that. And I do agree. This project, um, while in some ways it's like, okay, the schedule is a little bit, opened up when you don't have weekly meetings and stuff, but it's, yeah, what am I working on now? What's the next big push? It's interesting, but I think it's kind of cool that we're seeing a lot of the creators now turn to their own new short form ideas to kind of fill that void.
yeah. I mean, again, that's one of the things. And originally, I just did it because I wanted to help promote the anthology. Patrick Lugo was awesome about like, okay, we need to get the word out there. One of the ways to do that is, to get on the socials, but also newsletters are great. And so I started the newsletter essentially just to share a little bit about the process. But now I realize it's a venue to keep me accountable. It's like I'm going to continue working on my long graphic novel, but I'm going to make short ones and share them with people. Austin Kleon, I guess, says, show your work. And so I kind of really feel like that is a great side effect of the anthology. So
Yeah,
that should
absolutely.
help a little bit with the post show malaise, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's yeah. Anytime you do something, even if it's a really short comic, from beginning to end, like I feel like that's where the growth happens.
Yeah.
Um, and certainly on the long form projects, you see it. But even just getting out a bunch of short form ones, it's you can see the growth, and it builds that confidence as well, which I think is really important.
So true.
So, by the way, um, I can type it in chat. What is your Substack? If people want to see, if people have not signed up, they want to get your newsletter, how would they do that?
Yeah. Okay. I'll also share my screen again.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Go live. So this is it here. And you can just see up here, it is Jeff Larkin Comics.substack.com.
Okay, hold on. I don't think we're getting your,
Oh, you're not seeing my screen.
not getting your screen.
Okay, hang on again. It's showing it's live here.
Okay, well, I am going to go ahead and
Okay.
drop that link in the chat. So if you have
Yeah.
not signed up for Jeff's Substack, oh, hold on a second. Let me get my Discord back. There we go. Hold on, I'm not seeing your screen yet.
Okay, let me stop, and I will try sharing it again.
Okay.
Go live. Any love, any love. No, that's okay.
Okay. Well, I did at least drop the link in chat. So if anybody wants
Yeah.
to receive your, so what is going on here? Hold on a second. Okay. Just adjusting my view here. It's my Discord. The curtain has been drawn back, and people can see that I'm using Discord to capture the video feed. Just a moment. Yep, that was not what I wanted. All right. Yeah, maybe if I just hop back over here, it's gonna. Yeah, there we go. We're good.
Okay.
It's good. Um, what's a Jeff stream without a little bit of scuff? Pay no
Hey,
attention to either Jeff right now. Thank you, Sarah.
it's live TV.
It is absolutely. I mean, that's
Yeah.
for so having been involved with theater, you know this that there need to be adaptable. Well,
Yeah. I think also, yeah. And I also think like theater is also good training for writing, even as a performer. Like for instance, if you do improv, um, and I'm sorry if our audience knows this already, but one of the great things that you learn in improv is this idea of saying yes and I think that's crucial for writers as well. I actually took a playwriting course with a guy who was like, okay, this is a playwriting course, but we are going to be doing acting exercises on yes and. Um, so that's the way I write. When I have an inkling of an idea, I do more on the computer, but I used to just write full scat. Maybe this happens, maybe that happens. Yes, and just the idea of not putting too many no's when you're doing that initial brain dump. A whole lot of yes and maybe this, maybe that. I don't know. How did I get on that subject?
see, we're talking about adapting live theater, improv classes, and then, yeah,
Yeah,
how that fed into your writing.
yeah,
Yeah, well, it's interesting because there is the saying, and it's usually used more um, for animators, but I think it applies well to comic artists as well, since we're also sequential artists. But they say, animators are just actors with a pencil, and I think that's another way that I think that there's that overlap in the arts where one carries something into the other, or there's a set of skills that are shared, and one can even enhance the other.
I mean, that's one of the things that I need to bone up on. My character drawing skills are not, I still haven't had the hours that I'd like. But what I'm working towards is to get more acting into the character poses, into the expressions, etc. It really is acting, being a show photographer was kind of fun because one of my jobs, what I trained myself to do was find the sort of height of the scene. There's always a climactic moment generally at the end of the scene. And so I think of that too when I'm drawing a scene, because you're not going to draw every moment. Like, what is the really big moment? And how, if I was going to shoot that with my camera, where would I shoot it from? Would it be low? Would it be high? Would it be, far away? Would it be in close? So graphic novels are crazy because they're often done by one person. And you're kind of the film's director, you're the cinematographer, you're the actor, you're the sound guy, you do everything, which is also why it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's nice.
'Cause
You can, it's like the double-edged sword, right? You have complete creative control, but also you have like complete responsibility and accountability for everything on the page.
yeah.
Yeah. So, have you ever tried taking some of your theater photography and just doing a scene, like adapting it into comics to work on getting that acting into the comics?
Um, yeah, I mean, reference is a big thing, and I do look at it. And I haven't really thought about that. I should go back and take a look. I would shoot other people's shows, not my shows. I would shoot other people's shows, but um, looking at I've taken some life drawing classes and some figure drawing for comics classes, um, but it would be good to source my own stuff instead of just looking for poses on the internet.
Yeah, I think you'd be.
I really do need to make my own photo studio where I can shoot my own stuff. I used to do that downstairs in the living room. But I found that my cat kept photobombing me in my photo sessions for reference, which was kind of fun because I was actually, the last time I did that, I was working on a pirate thing, and I got all dressed up in galoshes, and I had a hat and everything, and then my cat was sitting right there beside me. He ended up going in that book instead of a parrot on the pirate's shoulder, like there was a cat. So
That's incredible. I love that.
yeah.
That's, so,
Sometimes, you just have to incorporate real life.
oh, absolutely. I think some of those unpredictable elements are what can add like a little spark of excitement in life to things.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Sarah is asking for a double Jeff improv session right now. Um,
Yes. Okay, we can do that, Sarah.
and and give us a scenario.
Would you like it to be musical as well?
Yeah, you may be pushing me to the limits of my abilities, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah. And it's been a long time since I've done improv, but you know, as
I
long
haven't
as we
done my
don't say
vocal
no.
warm ups.
Um, we're kind of improving already. Like
Yeah,
this is
I
not
essentially,
this is
yeah.
this is not scripted. What are you talking about, Sarah?
Okay, well,
Um,
barring a oh, I got so excited my monitor shut off. Musical, yes. Oh boy.
musical, yes. Okay.
Okay, so are we going to musically do a musical interview? Is that what we try to do here?
Um, we could like, and what kind of music? Do we have to rhyme, or is it going to be sung through? Where is it going to be musical theater or music theater, in which it doesn't have
Wait,
to make any.
there's music theater is
Yeah,
a thing? I wasn't aware
music
of that.
theater is the thing where you don't really have to. You don't write poppy type tunes, and you know, sometimes you. Um, well, there's also sung through musicals where there's no dialogue. It's just all singing all the time. So we could continue this interview just singing along, making a song, making it strong. Rock opera. Okay. Sarah, our time, you're 3 hours earlier than us. It's like 11:17, and I need to have a sip of water before I do any rock opera.
I'm just drinking straight up coffee right now. This is how I stream Thursday nights at this time. This is what works because my children are in bed, but it's yeah.
I considered having coffee tonight, but we've got a new library in town, and I'm going to stack the shelves tomorrow. So,
How exciting! I mean, it doesn't sound like it'd be exciting at first, but I think that's exciting. I love that whole the smell of the books and everything.
if as long as they didn't get moldy in the 4 years that they've been sitting in storage while they built this thing,
Oh, that's problematic potentially.
yeah. But I am wondering if I might be able to request that I stack in the kids section, particularly the kids graphic novel section. We'll see.
It could be a bulky section if they're given the influx of graphic novels these days to the market.
Yeah, I don't know how efficient I'll be stacking if I'm also reading at the same time.
That would do it. Um,
Yeah,
that actually reminds me of a picture book. One of our favorites in the house. Can I find it quickly? I can.
yeah, yeah.
It's Bulldog's Big Day, where
Uh-huh.
Bulldog is trying to find the right job for him, and one of them is actually. I did not think I'd be pulling this one out tonight. Um, but yes, one of them is actually Bulldog the bookseller. And of course, he gets caught up reading the books. And so, kind of the tagline for all the jobs that he are not, he has trouble with there. Bulldog, this is not the job for you. Anyway, you just flashbacks, favorite book. It's a good time.
Yeah. We'll see if they say that to me tomorrow or not. But the one thing is that I did when we went to, this is all volunteer. And when I went to the session, the volunteer session, I'm not super young, but I'm younger than most of the volunteers. So maybe they won't kick me out because I might be able to lift a few more pounds of books. We'll see.
There you go. Don't be afraid to play that card.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go, but I'm just so worried about your back.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
Did they call you sport? Sarah asked.
Do they call me sport? Do they call you sport? Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm supposed to sing a question, and you're supposed to finish the melody. And
Okay.
I'm trying to think of a good question that'll fit that will leave you something to work with. Okay. This is why you don't do improv at 11 o'clock at night after working.
This is why you don't have Sarah Bear. Never mind. She's helping us out here. So.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I know.
What haven't we talked about that you'd like to ask me yet?
I know exactly what we haven't talked about yet. That's actually still on topic for this interview, technically speaking. And I'll tell you, Jeff. What was the inspiration to your story creation?
You rhyme, you sing in time. Oh my God, what will my answer be? Are we talking about the comic for the anthology? Hey, that rhymed too.
Yes.
We are talking about the rhyme.
That's all I got.
Okay. I bet everybody except for Sarah Bear has now signed off. But if anybody's out there, thank you for putting up with us. The inspiration. Thank you. Yes, that was good commitment on our part. The inspiration for the comic in the anthology. We were given this theme brief. A kid's on a journey. So should I try sharing him to see if it's going to work or not?
Yeah, let's give it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see if this works. Not cool. Then we have visuals. Are you seeing that now?
I'm in my Discord window and I do not see anything coming
It's showing us live in my Discord window.
Did I never leave your previous one? Hold on a second. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I know what I did wrong. Okay. We're good now. It was my fault.
Very good. Okay.
Excellent.
So this is the graphic. So for my comic, I knew that we needed a journey. And so what happens, a journey has to happen somewhere. And oftentimes there are vehicles involved. So I just started making lists of environments and vehicles. And then I tried to figure out who's going to be in that vehicle, in that environment. And this is just a goofy little thing I did for a post in Kids Comics Unite and also for a blog, which was like, what would happen if you cross-pollinated these elements, So I don't know if you could guess, but I can't tell you what the creature is because that will give away my ending. But for my comic, for the main comic reception, I went with a desert environment, this one up here. And I was like, okay, a family is on a road trip through the desert. What happens? Well, their car breaks down. So that was a bit of conflict. And I remember actually Sarah Bear's on this chat, but she was great. We were in a quick group and I was like, I don't have that many pages to write this. I originally thought it was going to be 10 pages. And then we had to go back down to 8 pages. And I'd written this scene where we actually see the car break down on the desert road. And Sarah suggested that, try and you can jump, like you don't need to show all of your beginning. So I just did only one frame with the car breaking down. And then I jumped straight to this town where the family has walked into to try and get help because their car is broken down outside of town. And then I figured, okay, so I've got them into the town. Who are they going to meet? And I knew at some point there had to be a creature involved. And I was like, okay, so what kind of towns do you find in the West? Well, why not make it a Wild West town? So it started off being a little odd. They were kind of going into this Wild West town. Turns out they happened to have shrimp pad thai at the local saloon on demand. So in the comic, and I won't tell you who the creature is or what the ending is, but there's odd things going on in this town. And you might be able to guess, given the setup, that, where is the Wild West? What odd things have happened in the West, in North America? So if you look at these various creatures, you might guess what's going on. So that was the genesis for that. And then for the shorter comics, again, we didn't know whether all the long comics would make it into the book because we didn't know who was going to submit what, if everybody would get a long comic in. So I made a 2-pager and a 1-pager. And again, I was like, what's an interesting environment? So another one was the moon with astronaut in a rover. So what kind of creature is he going to meet on the moon? And then another one was, let's try a different kind of vehicle. Let's do a boat, or a boat on the ocean, and what kind of creatures are possibly in the ocean. I'm giving it away a lot because it's kind of obvious. But yeah, so that was the genesis of the comics. And my comic in the anthology is called Reception. And it is the one about this family that travels through the desert and breaks down. We did kind of say that we wanted our protagonist to be a kid. I did make it a family, so there is a mother and a father as well. But I did try and make the kid have important lines in the script. So there was that, but it's definitely kid friendly. Yeah. So does that answer your question?
It does. I'm curious if you tried anything with like mixing up with unexpected combinations of things. Hold on a second.
Yeah, per that, I did try a couple of things. For instance, the creature on the moon, but then again, there is sort of a logical connection. I can tell that one because it's pretty easy. And I think I already showed a little bit of it. Essentially, and that was a 1-pager, so it had to happen really quickly. Essentially, maybe I'll just show it.
Sorry. One second. I'm just trying to return my Discord video view to what it previously was, and it's being a bit unhelpful. Goodness gracious, Jeff, what are you doing? Sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
No
I
worries.
am just
Okay.
trying to get
Okay.
this adjusted.
All right. I will. If it comes up, great. If it doesn't, no sweat. So that comic was about an astronaut on the moon. We see in the very first panel a fly approaching him. Like, flies aren't on the moon, but maybe they are. Who knows? But the idea is that, don't you hate it when you're driving somewhere and like you just get bug smear all over the windshield and all over the front grille? So the idea was like, okay, what's an astronaut's? Am I sharing the right screen?
You are. My Discord
Okay,
got
no
janky
worries.
for a second, but I'm gonna fix it. I am in the
Yep,
process of fixing it.
that's all right.
Better.
So
That's
the
better.
whole idea was based on bug smear on a windshield, essentially. So, um, and then so what does the astronaut do? He grabs a fly swatter and he splats the fly on his thing. And as he is cleaning off his visor, he sees over a hill in the distance something. And it's only in the last panel that we see that on the moon there are giant flies who have fly swatters too. And her kind of progeny, her kids are down there. So that was the sort of surprise ending on that one. So again, it was just like there wasn't anything really unusual about that, except for the fact that maybe they don't have giant flies on the moon. Um, but I got there from the idea of, what could smear on an astronaut's visor. Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How about you? How did you guys figure out your premise?
Oh well, it came kind of naturally. Actually, we were just I had just kind of started started playing a D&D campaign at our local library, um, and I'd always, as a kid, I'd always been involved in things that were sort of D&D adjacent, but I'd never played D&D proper until just last year. Um, D&D, of course, for anyone who's not aware, Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, hey Frank, thanks for dropping the link. I totally forgot to do that. Um, yeah, so I had just started playing and really was having a good time with it. It was like a family game, so I was playing with one of our kids, and I knew that I was hopeful for a story idea that would be something centered around that. And I kind of sat down and pitched something to Ashley, centered on a few of those elements with kind of this working in this bit of a community feel to it. And she then fleshed out the story into something actually coherent with, ups and downs and a beginning, end, and middle. Um, and then I just drew it from there.
Cool. Um, so do your kids love it?
Yes, yeah. Um, Especially the one who's more interested in deity. She's a big fan. Uh, Frank,
Do they
this
give
is what I was
did
expecting from Frank.
yeah.
Sorry. Hi, Jeff, and Jeff.
And Jeff, cool. Um, I don't know if you guys watch any Instagrams, but there's a guy named Drennan Davis who does these Instagram things with his cat. But he also has a possum named Jeff, and it is spelled Jeph.
Oh no.
So, Frankie, I don't know if you're a Drennan Davis fan, but I do approve of that spelling.
It is a
Um,
Jeff approved spelling. Let me fix that. All
it
right,
is
there we go.
yes. And it is weird, Jeff, that you have the British spelling and I have the American spelling of the name Jeff, although I'm originally from Canada and you're from the States.
I'm from the, I mean, I'm from Wisconsin, so maybe that counts a little closer to Canada. I'm not quite sure. I mean, central Wisconsin, but
Okay. All right. That could explain it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
actually really funny. Chad Sell and I went to high school together.
oh, nice.
Um, of course, he actually knew that he wanted to do something artistic with his career. And he even back then he was just incredibly talented.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Um, I don't know if you saw that Chad Sell presentation on KCU, but it was one of the most inspiring things that I've seen in the last couple of years, particularly because he was pretty adamant that you should make a version of your book for yourself. Um, and there is a lot of talk that don't write too much or don't illustrate too much before you go out and try and pitch it. And I get the business sense of that, but also this idea that you could do rough thumbnails of a whole book to figure it out. So yeah, I think Chad's pretty cool. He's very giving in terms of sharing knowledge as well.
Yeah, and yeah, I remember I think it was his most recent one. I think we had to miss that one, but the first one he did for KCU, I saw, and yeah, it's just amazing the wealth of knowledge and seeing his whole process. Um, and there's a real wisdom to that, like making the comic for you, because I think some of my favorite things I've done have been when I've just been totally self-indulgent. Now, I don't know if that translates to marketable, but there's something in it. I think when you get in touch with that thing, that part of it that really speaks to you, that's
Yeah,
really, yeah, it unlocks something in the comic.
yeah. Um, Sarah Bear and I did this workshop recently with an agent about creating graphic novel proposal packages. Um, and it was interesting because we were kind of joking about how the industry right now, the environment, it's a difficult environment right now. It's hard to sell a book into the industry right now. Um, and sort of we were just joking of then why would we not write what we want to write right now? It's so hard anyways, um, that you might as well do what you want to do, with one eye on the marketable as well. You know, I'm not an like I'm not a pure artist that you know wants to just put it in my drawer and be pleased with myself. I would like to share it with an audience one day, but you know,
Absolutely. I think it's such an interesting time right now because it's so easy to put your work out there, but it's actually hard to get people to see it.
yeah. I'm curious too, you know, regarding the anthology too, this idea that, and maybe it's shifting because we're doing well with our Kickstarter, but this idea that generally kids' comics do not do as well as adult comics on Kickstarter. And I guess that is partially to do with the fact that a lot of the buyers, you know, parents buy for their kids and they're not necessarily following Kickstarters the same way that adult comic enthusiasts are. Um, but yeah, there is, and you know, Jana's constantly saying there are other avenues than traditional publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Oh, absolutely. I think, um, and you've got, and that's not even getting into like the web comics side of things, where you've got these major players like Webtoons out there, ways to get your stuff out there. Although there's not a great kids comics platform like that right now.
yeah.
Um, it's a little bit hard.
I love what you guys are doing in Tunes as well. This sort of direct to an audience thing.
Thanks. Yeah, this is and Sarah can comment on it as well in the chat. This was her her original pitch, and yeah, we've been loving working on the project. Um, yeah, it's interesting, and I think she has a good set of connections with teachers and stuff, and a way to kind of get it to. I think kids are a little bit of a gate kept audience, for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's weird because you want to make something for the kids to enjoy, but it has to be pleasing to the gatekeepers who may not have the same interests. And it becomes a very challenging market and a very challenging medium, and because you've got a double audience that you have to appease.
Yeah,
But so far with cartoons, I think we're trying to get there. We're trying to get it out there in front of people.
yeah.
Will we see a feature comic from you at any point, or would you be
Um,
interested?
well, I am, but I don't know. It is a different audience. Again, I feel like I'm pitching older to an older group of kids. So I don't know really how to write for that yet. Um, I might find out and try it because I do love what you guys are doing. Um, yeah, so we'll see. Um, yeah.
No smoking,
Uh,
Sarah says.
hmm?
No smoking, Sarah says.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, all my comics. Well, there's no smoking in the comics I just showed you. Um, I did. I was just thinking about what you said though about this dual audience, and that's something that I'm dealing with right now. Another aspect of the project is that we're putting together the back matter pages for the book, in which we're showing some people's process. We get to see their sketches, we get to see their inks, we get to see their colors, and people are talking about how they made their comics. And it's interesting because one of our tasks in putting that together with the quotes is we've been going through all the stuff that's been written in the past year. And we're trying to find stuff that will work for the readers of our book. It's a different use case. So finding that level of information that appeals to both kids and adults can be challenging, but it's great when it does work out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think the
Yeah.
chance to do that kind of back matter, which by the way, that was one of the stretch goals that y'all helped unlock, for anyone who contributed. Um, but I think one of the benefits of that kind of content is that when it's done in a way that can speak to the kids too, um, I feel like that's a whole new like peek behind the curtain. And for those kids that are already kind of like leaning that way, it's like, oh, I can make this, I could do this. Like, oh,
Yeah, I just have to pull out a book. Shoot, it's not there. But we're talking about books that we've read recently. And I don't know if you've read Raina's Cartoonist Club, Raina Telgemeier and Scott McCloud's Cartoonist Club book. But it's essentially Scott McCloud's making comics, butted up against a Raina awesome kid relationship
oh,
story. Um, and kids are eating it up because it's also all about the comics making process. It teaches how kids how to make a zine within the book. Um, so kids are digging the idea of making comics too, and we hope that some of the tips in the back matter are things that they might not have heard previously, but that they might consider as they make their own comics. And also, again, like I buy kids graphic novels, but I always read the back matter as well. And I like back matter that doesn't talk down to kids. Um, so there is that dual audience. Like write it in such a way that it appeals to both adults and kids.
yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because when I was, like middle grade age, I don't remember like a whole lot of graphic novels aside from, maybe collections of short form comics like Calvin and Hobbes and stuff like that, which, maybe again, those are more collections, not necessarily graphic novel, but there wasn't as
Yeah,
much of the back matter type stuff in there. And then now having kids and seeing what they read, like, wow, this is awesome. Like I'm as someone who works in comics, like seeing the process for the cover, seeing some of your like pencils and inks of pages. Um, it's even for me, like I do this, and it's still really inspirational and super cool to see. Um, so I'm really glad that we get to share it with anyone who's looking through our book.
yeah. I'll just share one tip. Like Anne Marie Perks, who is the head of the design committee and who worked with two other people on the cover, choosing which cover to use, gave the tip about this idea that in the industry, often when you're looking at the mock-ups of the cover, they will only be in black and white because you get so much information about the form and the structure that you don't need color yet to make those initial decisions. So that seems really basic, but I never really heard it in terms of a cover being designed that way. I know individual pages, some people will go to grayscale before getting to color, but the same thing for design things like covers.
That's interesting, and it makes sense, and it saves a lot of effort as well if you're doing a few different designs and want to see like work them up a little bit. It makes sense to save the effort. Like don't try applying color to each and every one yet before you pick, so you can kind of save some effort. I did
Yeah,
want to say, I feel really fortunate that we got to see all three potential cover designs. Sadly,
yeah,
we could only pick one to be on the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
All three were incredible. It
Yeah.
was really exciting to get to be a part of that process. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of what like an editorial was like, but we got to see all the comics too. So,
Oh my gosh.
um,
It's so cool.
yeah. Um, and another fun tip, like this is going to be fun. There's Claire Murray was having trouble focusing because she works full time on getting her pencils done, which is the most difficult part for her or the most time consuming. So she includes a tip, and I'm just giving away a couple of tips here, but how did she ended up getting focused? Well, she actually needed to get away from her internet and all her other distractions. So she would drive her car to a parking lot near her parents' house and basically sit in the car for an hour or whatever and draw on her iPad in her car because that was the only way she could stay focused.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and so she included an image of her drawing in the car, a cartoon of her drawing in the car, which is really kind of fun.
That's really cool. I mean, it makes sense. Like you got to do what, works for you to get things done. But that's, yeah,
Yep.
it's a good way to force the focus.
Yeah.
Because yeah, sometimes we all need to be saved from ourselves a little bit.
What distracts you?
What distracts me?
Yeah.
Usually, you know, middle grade age child running up screaming, "Dad, Dad, 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 check this out."
Yeah.
That's a common distraction for me.
Yeah.
But I actually
I
work
mean,
better with a little bit of distraction. I almost always have music on, or I'll be listening to Twitch while I'm working, both for my meteorology job and for when I'm doing art. A lot of my art happens while I'm sitting on the sofa next to Ashley or just watching TV, and I'm just drawing while we're doing that. It's a big help for me. Like it turns off a part of my brain that would otherwise be going out and getting distracted. It's kind of a weird thing, but it works for me.
I'm really glad to be able to go back to coffee shops to work in those because it can be lonely when you're at home alone working on your stuff. So being able to go back to coffee shops, but one of my favorite coffee shops in town just plays the same damn reggae soundtrack all the time. It's a good soundtrack, but where I like to sit, it's pretty loud. So my hack is obviously noise canceling headphones, but the cans that go over your ears. So I can also put in earplugs first and then put the noise canceling over them because I cannot work with noise if I'm writing something. If I'm flatting or doing something brainless like that, but when it comes to actually trying to write something, who is the woman that says hi?
Oh, that would be. I believe that Frank is talking about his girlfriend Fallen, who's also sometimes joins us in chat.
Oh, cool. Hi,
So hey,
Frank. Hi,
Fallen,
Colin.
how's it going?
How are you?
So Frank, by the way, is also a comic artist. He does a series. He posts primarily on Instagram called Loosey Goosey. Actually, he does a few series, and he's
Cool.
also gracious enough to be a moderator here on my channel.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Cool. I will check it out, Loosey Goosey.
And as moderator, he set up a command where if you type exclamation point Frank in the chat, it will complete with "is the best."
Is oh my. Um, wow. Okay. He's on top. On
He is
top of the
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
He's also added a neat functionality where you can retrieve your the weather for any given geographic location, which is good times. The meteorologist in me is a big fan. There is the link in chat to Frank's Instagram if anybody wants to go check out his comics. They're very enjoyable. It's a very Sunday funnies type of vibe. Um, I really enjoy reading
Cool.
them. And there's the weather. Yes.
Nice. Yeah, I
You
like
can
the fact
take.
that you've all.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, this is really cool. Nice work, Frank. Um, yeah. I like the fact, Jeff, that you've been able to use your weather expertise on cartoons as well.
It's been fun. It's been nice. So ironically, the story that drove us over to graphic novels was a meteorology story, and we couldn't get it to fit as a picture book.
Hmm.
So, when we first started doing picture books, people were like, "Hey, you should do one about the weather, right? Like, you guys are both meteorologists. That would be so perfect." And we actually kind of ran away from that screaming for a long time. Like, we were just like, "No, we want to do something creative. Like, this is, different from our meteorology work stuff." And finally, we listened to people, and we're like, "All right, let's do one." And we ended up writing like the most didactic picture book you could imagine. It was something, I think it was like called like "No, I Am Not on Television," just to try to like talk about all the different non-broadcast jobs that meteorologists can do. Um, but
Oh,
uh, yeah, that drove us to actually write a story involving a kid meteorologist, and that's what got us into actually graphic novels. It's kind of funny. So then we did that. We started to stray away from it, and then Coretoons kind of gave us this other short form format where we could deliver some of that content, which I think has worked really well. Thank you. Frank says, "Thank you, cool Jeff." I'm assuming since he actually spelled it as your name, he's talking about you, and sadly not me.
who knows? Who knows? He could be talking about Jeff the Possum from Drennan Davis's show. Um, I would think that weather, I don't know if there's more weather, whether that makes sense than there used to be, but there seems to be more weather events that are unusual due to climate change, if you believe in that or not. But it seems to be something that might be rife for even more portrayal in popular media.
Yeah, I think, the good news is I think that many people, a good chunk of society, especially in creators and scientists, they're like, okay, yes, we can see that this is a thing that's happening. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think there's really a lot of debate from what I've seen in the scientific community about whether or not climate change is real, especially working with, one of the products that I developed in the last few years was hurricane forecasting based. And yeah,
Oh,
extreme weather events are becoming more common, and the extremes are being driven higher in general.
so where do we move to if we want to avoid the, locusts and the four horsemen and, you
Well, I think
know,
the point is that you can't avoid them, but it's no, it's I don't know if there's any place that's geographically necessarily safe because every place has some sort of extreme event, and it's just weather is the planet balancing things. And so if you have things like a much, warmer ocean temperatures, then that's going to need to balance out somewhere. It's the wind, like a lot of the storms and these frontal systems, this is all just balancing acts. And so as things warm up, things are thrown out of balance, and the reconciliation has to be stronger, right?
hmm,
So
I've
it's
never,
yeah, go ahead.
never considered that. That's cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about it, wind is just air moving from areas of high pressure to low pressure. And because our planet spins, you tend to get this rightward turn towards it in the northern hemisphere, and so you get these cyclones and anticyclones, and that's high pressure and low pressure systems. And when you have high pressure, when you've got a bunch of air coming together, when you've got this is actually low pressure. When air is coming together at the surface, it has to go somewhere, so it rises, right? And then the rising air causes clouds to form. It continues to rise, and you start getting, precipitation forming. And if it's rising violently enough, you'll start to get things like hail, lightning. So it's a lot. It's driven by these differences in the heating of the surface. So
Hmm,
yeah,
cool.
you're
I've,
sitting on a massive fault line, but oh, these mountains. Pros and cons,
uh,
right, Sarah? Yeah.
yeah, Sarah, when I lived in Vancouver too, I thought about living like right on the water's edge, and all those houses were going to fall in first
Oh
when
gosh.
the earthquake hits Vancouver. But it is pretty. It's a pretty view when you're falling into the ocean.
It's a real close-up
Um,
view as well. It turns out.
yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah.
Sarah,
Is it?
so Sarah, fun fact: I do have a green screen, and at some point, I'm going to do a weathercasting stream. Um, it was when I first started meteorology school, my dream to be a broadcast meteorologist. And then but I also like programming, so I quickly got recruited into research. So I will someday, there will be a weather broadcasting stream here. If you lived in Tallahassee, Florida, and watched the public access channel during a certain year, you might have seen me on the FSU weather show. Um, but
Were
that was a
you
while back.
were you like one of those comic weather guys, or? And here we are talking about newscasting, and you just told us that not all meteorologists are newscasters. But were you a funny guy?
I, I'd like to think I was.
Yeah.
I tried. I think humor is part of it, because it's about the science communication, and it turns out that's really vital. Um, I know I think that the didactic book that we wrote was because that's the first thing that anybody will ask you if you say you are a meteorologist.
Yeah.
They will always ask you, "Oh, well, I see you on TV," and so we were kind of trying to poke fun at that.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because it's the public facing part of the field. And the science communication is incredibly important because you can do all the research you want, but if you can't effectively tell people about it and what it means in their day-to-day lives, it's not really helping very much.
Yeah. What are your kids into? Are they into graphic novels and weather and?
Maybe not as much weather, but graphic novels very much so.
Yeah.
So one has started doing a little bit of digital art. I have not let her use my art computer, but we have a stylus for the family laptop and touchscreen, and so she's doing some digital comics, and she's actually collaborating with some friends that she met in an online class, like across the country, and so she does the inks, and they do the colors. So
Yeah.
already splitting up the process. She has a colorist. Um,
She has a colorist.
yeah,
Oh my
I know.
god.
Like, well, she's doing better than me, honestly. And then my son, he actually, at first we were working on graphic novels together, and we wrote about two and a half, where he was the creative director. He'd tell me what he wanted in each panel. I would pencil it. He'd give me the thumbs up. I would ink it, and then he would color. Um, and then just one day, he just had this idea, and he started going, and he's written like 300, 350 pages of comics in the last year, just all on his own.
Yeah.
So it's
So one thing I did want to ask you, because I did see your process pages as well. Ashley wrote an article about it. Um, I didn't realize that she, she'll draw chicken scratch thumbnails as well.
mhm.
That's cool. And then, like, how do you guys sit down and chat? Do you like how does that go from her to you and back and forth?
So, we say she's the writer and I'm the artist, but really we both wear each hat a little bit at least. So we'll do a lot of talking about an idea and kind of nail out some stuff. Or if she's got a story, if she has questions about like how do I make this work, or like I know what I want to do with this, but like I'm trying to figure this part out. Um, Sometimes we'll just like I remember there would be times we just took the kids to the playground and we would just walk around the playground while the kids were playing, and we'd just be talking out a story and figuring out where we wanted to go and how we want to hook stuff in, and kind of just trying to make each other laugh and crack up about it. Um, and then we kind of would figure out, that's where we wanted. Then she would write it up, and then I would proofread. And then she does a lot of the visual stuff. I think she has carpal tunnel, so it's a little bit hard for her to do a lot of the drawing.
Hmm.
Um, but she'll break things into pages and panels oftentimes. She'll even do thumbnails of them. Then I'll come in and bring them over to digital. And as I'm doing that, I'll start to say, okay, well, maybe we need an extra. I feel like we need an extra panel here, or I kind of want to change up how we do this. She doesn't do a whole lot with the camera. She leaves a lot of that for me to figure out. And we kind of go back and forth, and then she'll give me edits, catch those things that I completely missed. And yeah, we go back and forth on stuff until we kind of end up at a finished page.
Cool. Yeah, it just reminded me that I didn't mention before when we were talking about the process pages in the back of the anthology that we've asked you guys if we can use one of your quotes and images explaining it. So that's going to be fun to include.
Yeah, we're excited. Thanks. We saw the email come through, and we will be getting back to that. By the way,
Yeah, cool.
thanks for hanging out, Ken. By the way, we'll catch you next cartoons.
Yeah,
Um,
cool.
yeah, I don't know, it's really cool to get to have part of the process, and that makes that back matter as well. Um, so thank you for reaching out on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, what is your next project?
That is a spectacular question. And also, you have managed to take the interviewer hat, which is pretty impressive. So nice work there. I see what you're doing.
I hope that's okay.
It's fine. It's a conversation, right? Is what we do.
Yeah,
Um, so we have a bunch of story ideas, and we're trying to figure out. So we completed a pitch packet that we did for submitted for Pitch Fest. Um, we were kind of hopeful that it would get a little more interest than it did, but we love the story, so we shelved that one. We're absolutely in love with that story, and we don't want it to go away, but we feel like that's one that we'd really like to see potentially someday get the traditional publishing approach. But it
yeah,
seems like maybe it's not quite ready yet. Um, so we're working on that, but we have several other ideas we'd like to develop. Um, and we're looking into what we might try for a episodic webcomic type of thing. I think that would be a fun venture to go into and try doing it. Like we're really just enjoying making the stories now and the comics, whether it's our cartoons pieces. Um, Sarah, is this Jeff Thunderdome? Oh my goodness. Um, but we're really just enjoying making the comics and figuring, and cartoons and the anthology have kind of given us this experience of this is what it feels like to get your work out there just immediately. So
yeah,
let's do more of that. Let's stop chasing that traditional publishing carrot, because if it happens someday, it happens. But in the meantime, like, we can continue growing by making stories and putting them out there. We can continue finding joy in what we're doing. So let's keep doing that. Cartoons is a major part of that, but also developing a few of these other ideas. We haven't quite picked where we're going to go next yet on those.
yeah. Um, Sort of similarly, I do think, doing projects that are not necessarily need to be traditionally published is something that's giving me a new sort of lease on excitement. And so one of the things, and I don't know what the possibility of this is, but as I do more short comics, like maybe one day I will collect those into a book. Um, I don't know if I need to have a unifying theme through the book to do something like that, or whether I can just start with. But this whole idea of like, I can knock off some short comics and just have that be fun. But down the road, like there will be a collection of them that could be their own thing. Um, so it's kind of fun to consider that option as well.
And you may find, not to bring back one of our favorite buzzwords from the beginning of PubCon, but it may be that you find an emergent theme, as you look through what you've made. There may be something like, oh, I kind of see a thread that goes through all of these really neatly. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember
Sarah,
just because
sorry for the PTSD, Sarah.
uh, um, yeah, one of the comics I think I did. Which one was it? Oh, the one that I showed you, the two pager with the boy in the boat and the kraken. Um, that is now. I have three more stories for that now. Um, and who knows? Like I never expected that could turn into something longer than the 2 pages. But so yes, that has emerged from the depths of you know
That one worked on a couple of levels. I like that.
that did, didn't it? Yes, nice setup.
Yeah, happy to
Yeah,
help out. It's all good.
yeah, yeah,
So okay, so we're here. It's a little bit after midnight Eastern time, which is both of our time zones right now.
yep,
Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else major that we haven't covered. It's been a good conversation.
yeah. A little freeform and kind of meandering, which is always fun. Uh,
I mean, if you talked with me, that's kind of how it goes.
yeah, I don't know if there was stuff on the to-do list. Do we need to summarize what we've learned today in our meeting?
The art is the friends that we've made along the way. Um,
Uh,
no,
yeah.
that's I got nothing. But what I do always want to, I always try to ask, or what I have done. You are my now fourth guest ever on stream, and I do make it a point to ask where can people find you. I know we shared your Substack, which I will once again drop that link in chat. That's jefflarkincomics.substack.com. Where else can people see your work?
They can see it on my website, which is jefflarkinart.com. And I'm not super on the socials, but I am also Jeff Larkin Art on Blue Sky.
Okay. I've
Yeah,
got your website in there. I'm just manually pulling these up to make sure that I get the links correct.
cool.
Because, I do things the super fast way, as everyone here on stream knows.
Uh,
Okay.
well, this is exciting that you're doing this stream with guests. I really appreciate you. It's just fun hanging out, talking.
Yeah, I actually kind of want to keep doing it. Honestly, it's been really great. And the chance to get, because, like, how many meetings have we been in together in the last year? Um,
Yeah,
it's great, but I don't get to talk to you like this and find out kind of, your story, where what your background is, and just learn about you as an artist as much. Even between Clip Studio Cafe, publishing committee, standard KCU stuff, like there's not quite the chance for this kind of exchange, and I think it's really fun getting to know like the KCU family this way.
yeah,
So yeah, it's been great. I
yeah.
will, if I don't continue doing this in some format, I will miss it. I guess that's my post show malaise a little bit. Um, so
Yeah.
I may do some more of this, just
Yeah,
as
you
a
should.
chance to talk with people and hang out. Maybe we can do some Clip Studio stuff on here. That would be kind of fun. You can
That
share
would
some
be
of your
cool too.
tutorials.
Yeah, would be cool.
Oh, Chad sound like, so. Just to be clear, we went to high school together, but we didn't stay in touch. I did reach out to him after he did the first KCU thing, just to say, hey, awesome job, super cool. But yeah, that would be a bit of a reach. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe you want to. We weren't like enemies, so that's good.
Maybe he has a secret thing for weather that, he needs to learn from you.
That would be, hey, I'm happy to share whatever.
Yeah.
We Sarah, we were the Tigers. How did you know this? I'm giving it all away. We were indeed the Tigers. Yes, I'm 100% serious. That's
She's got
funny.
the Google, she has the Google foo. Oh
I
no,
maybe it's
she
just
really,
because she said the great in chat earlier with the about kids making comics, but
she has psychic abilities.
apparently
Yeah.
that would explain a lot with how well cartoon stuff has gone.
Yeah.
50% of mascots are tigers. Well, that would
Oh,
explain a lot as well. It's all just playing the odds.
I will never play poker with Sarah.
Probably wise. Probably
Yeah.
wise. Same here.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I will respect the rest of your limited evening time and wrap things up here. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out. It's been really fun. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. For any of you who wish to watch more stream or watch me, do some art, I will be back. My plan is next Thursday, 10 p.m. That is my regular time. I've been trying to figure out a way to do some extra streams, but at least I'll be back then, and I'll probably be picking up on the donation piece that I've been working on for Games Done Quick. So yeah, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursdays. You can find me here. I just dropped my socials in the chat. Yeah, and just thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Sarah, it's been great having you in chat. Thanks to everyone who was here earlier and had to go. If you have been lurking, I appreciate you being here. It's fun to get to chat with Jeff here, and I hope that you enjoyed it as well. And if you're watching the recordings on Twitch or YouTube, I hope you had a good time as well. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments and drop a like or subscribe if you enjoy what you saw. I think that is everything. I always forget to preload my stream ending graphic, so I'm gonna keep talking while I do that now, because it's a fairly large GIF that takes a second. Okay.
Oh, the suspense.
There we go. All right. So thank you again, everyone. I hope you have a great night, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.